everyone, and welcome to Total Football Talk. I'm Anthony.
And I'm Eric.
And unfortunately, Eric is not here. I can't pan the camera and have you see him because his ugly mug isn't here. Just remember, I'm the good-looking one. That's how that works. Okay.
Sure. Whatever you say.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm not waiting any longer. So here's the show breakdown. We're going to talk about Rams and Bears free agencies. We're going to talk about winners and losers in the free agent market so far. And then I kind of want to I didn't tell you this, Eric, but I'm going to do it. I kind of want to wrap up the show with reasons to be optimistic if you are, teams that don't normally get a lot of coverage. Because there's three teams in particular that I'm thinking about that I think would be really good candidates for this for me, and I'm curious what Eric thinks. And then obviously we're going to talk about the Ram uniform. So I told Eric I'm not waiting any longer. He told me he had news on the uniform. So without further ado, Eric, the Ram uniform, go.
All right, the Ram uniforms, if you guys have not heard, they will finally be revealed at 12 p.m. Pacific time on Monday, the 23rd. I'm looking forward to it. I would love to tune in. I might actually have to do it from my phone because Illinois is closing down except all essential businesses. But I work in essential business, so I will be at work. However, I came across this little piece of an Aaron Donald workout, and they were wondering if his logo depicted the Rams colors. So if you really want to see what the Rams colors are going to be, or maybe I should say, I would Google Aaron Donald workout and find the one where it says, did Aaron Donald leak the Rams colors? So you're looking at more a navy blue. So you guys want to try to be like the Bears, I understand. But then you're looking at a yellow that's between Green Bay cheese and Pittsburgh gold. That's the best way I can describe it. It's not actually a bad-looking color combination, but it's probably the closest that I know Demoff told all you Rams fans about staying with the old uniforms, but I believe this is what it's going to be. We'll find out Monday. I love AD's logo, by the way. It's the AD in the yellow with the 99 in blue, pretty much all wrapped around each other. And I'm thinking you guys are getting a new color scheme, so...
Well, first of all, blue. Hold on. Time out. Now I'm going to interject here. Okay, navy blue and gold isn't necessarily a color scheme change. The fans wanted blue and yellow, and it looks like that's what we're going to get. The Rams helmet was always navy blue. The jersey was an off blue. It used to drive my wife crazy. Whenever I watch the old Ram games, she's like, the helmet doesn't match the jersey. Why? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah, it does. And she's like, no, it doesn't. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. But shut up. You have to point that out?
You want to be like the Browns, an orange helmet and a brown jersey.
Well, at least orange and brown is their uniform, but it was like literally navy blue and royal blue. The Rams helmet was always navy blue. And I did hear back in December, Demoff said if they did switch to blue and yellow, that the blue would correlate with the jersey, which was a direct shot at the 80s and 99 uniform. So...
Yeah, so I mean, this is still going with the Rams color scheme, being a darker blue, but also bringing the 80s and 90s into the 2020s. And it's actually not a bad looking color combination.
It's the Michigan Wolverines.
Like a dark color mustard.
It's the Michigan Wolverines, basically, right?
Than the Wolverine yellow. Again, it's a combination. It's a cross between the Packers yellow and the Pittsburgh gold. So if you combine those two, that's the Rams color right there.
Interesting. So it's not Sun Devil gold.
No.
Okay. Is it more?
No, it's almost
like the Redskins.
It's a darker yellow mustard.
So it's like the Redskins.
That's the best way to describe it.
Okay, so it's
Dijon. There we go. It's Dijon.
There you go. Okay, very cool. Well, blue and yellow, guys, we got what we wanted. I'm happy. Now let's just hopefully they don't mess up the actual uniform design and keep the horns going and everything else. That's what the big reveal is going to be really all about. All right, I'm going to piggyback off of this with some good news. Now, forgive me, I'm not entirely awake this morning, so names may escape me, but I'm going to go by position here. So Eric will tell you, and LT, if you listen to his show, and if he does one here coming up, he'll tell you the same thing. I've been pretty hard on the Rams with their lack of free agent moves, and I was looking at the Rams roster last night, or yesterday, I should say, to go, okay, what realistically, I mean, I know the Rams are going to be last in the West, but what realistically should be a win-loss record prediction? So I started looking at the roster, and I started going, well, maybe they're not as bad as I thought they were. So obviously, the free agents that I know of that the Rams have signed has been Floyd. I believe his last name is Floyd, right, Eric?
Yeah, Leonard Floyd is
Yeah.
his full name.
Yeah, Leonard Floyd from Chicago. We picked him up. He's a D-lineman. Eric will get into the details of him, and I'll say what I think of him, and then Eric will either verify or go in more depth. We obviously re-signed Whitworth for way too much money. I'm surprised there wasn't a hometown discount from Whitworth, knowing the Rams' cap situation. I'm actually really disappointed. We re-signed Blythe, which I originally was upset about, but then I started thinking about the situation. And then you start thinking about, okay, well, the Rams just let Gurley go. So I don't think the Rams are done yet, because letting Gurley go and Clay Matthews, they freed up about $8 million in cap space, and that's enough to either get another lineman or maybe potentially a low-tier running back that's out there that's available. Now, obviously, that's not a Melvin Gordon. He's in Denver, but, Eric might be able to come up with some possible running back names that the Rams may go with, or maybe it is going to be a defensive player or an O-lineman. There's no question the Rams have a glaring weakness now at running back, but we'll kind of break this down. So I started looking at, first from the offensive side of the ball, let's look at the O-line, because that's been my focus for the last 3 years. And when you look at the Rams O-line, you've got Noteboom coming back from a double knee tear, so you don't know what he can do. So re-signing Blythe actually makes a lot of sense, because you have Whitworth at tackle, you have Blythe at guard, Noteboom can back up either guy if they get injured, and you could kind of test his knee through the course of the season. So they'll use Noteboom more for depth purposes. You've got Smith at center returning from his injury, and then you've got those two studs that really the last 4 weeks, the 5 weeks of the season, we were 4-1 with those guys in the lineup. Our only loss was to the 49ers. So I was really high on both. I believe it was Davis and I can't remember the other kid's name, but I was really high. What's that?
You're not talking about Austin Corbett, are you?
No. Austin Corbett is another one I think is going to be for depth purposes. Either Blythe is going to be the backup at guard or Corbett. But the two rookies that they played at guard and tackle that were side by side when Blythe and Havenstein went down the pike, they brought those kids in and they really solidified the right side of the offensive line. I actually think the offensive line is going to be okay. And keep in mind who's saying it, okay? One of the biggest critics of the O-line is me. And yes, the Rams didn't go out and get anybody. And yes, that's mildly disappointing. But I'm not going to sit here and say they didn't get anybody. They re-signed two of their own. And they already know. I mean, I was impressed with those two. Now they're going to get a whole off season being the starters. Obviously there's going to be tape on them. So, rubber's about to meet the road in 2020. And we're going to find out how good these guys really are. But one thing I will say about O-line, you're either good at it or you're not. And it's not like guys have a big drop-off from their rookie year to their second year on the O-line, usually. So that's reason to be optimistic. We have the best tight end combination in the National Football League. I don't care what anyone says. And we freed up room by letting go of some of those other guys that we don't really need. Because the Rams' approach is going to be simple. If they lose a tight end due to an injury, then the other tight end is going to be solidified in the starting lineup on a consistent basis, and we'll just go 3 wide, 1 tight end. If both are healthy, we're going to go 2 wide, 2 tight end. The old Redskins ace formation. We've got Everett. We've got Higbee. Higbee is starting to really explode. And I said Mark Bavaro, and I meant it. He is Mark Bavaro Jr. And everyone gave Shockey that label, and I laughed because Shockey was a one-hit wonder flash in the pan. Higbee's the real deal. And it's not just because he's wearing 89. It's not just because he's wearing 89, Eric.
Do you remember George Fant as like a 6 lineman?
Mm-hmm.
That's Gerald Everett right there. That's going to be your blocking tight end majority of the time that he's in, and Higbee's going to run loose. And this is why the Rams are trying to trade Cooks, because they can get more of a playmaker on the field with Higbee, use him a little bit more to their advantage like that, like the Chiefs use Kelsey, like the Eagles use Hurts, and this will free up not only money and more cap space for the Rams, but also get Josh Reynolds in the starting lineup. Cooks is on the table. Again, this is why with the 2 tight end formation that you're talking about, this is what I'm envisioning, and I can see Cooks going for either a draft pick or another possible, like, being traded straight up for an offensive lineman for depth.
Either that or a running back. Because really, that's where the...
Running back, yeah, but you know what? You might as well draft one. You can get wherever you're
That's true.
draft, you can get a running back.
Well, but third round is going to be kind of tough. The only thing I will say about Everett is Everett's got...
Is it going to be tough? I mean, running backs fall all the time. You're not going to get Jonathan Davis in the 3rd round. You're not going to get Andre Swift in the 3rd round. But there are other guys who are studs who are coming out who are going to be, because it's a wide receiver heavy class.
Yeah.
And I would expect the Rams to dip into that. I would say the Rams, if they have a 2nd round pick, I could see a 2nd round pick going to a running back.
Yeah, I could too. That's a very true point. And we'll talk about the running back versus tight end position in tomorrow's show, because I want to do another show tomorrow morning. And that's going to be the topic, tight end versus running back, which is ironic because we're talking about that with the Rams. One thing I will say about Gerald Everett, he's got good hands now, and he's got good speed. And actually, Higbee's the better blocker of the two. So I don't know that they'll utilize Higbee as a 6th lineman. I don't know that they'll utilize any of their tight ends as a 6th lineman. But if they're going to leave someone in to block, you could see Gerald Everett have a big year this year, and Higbee's numbers stay pretty consistent. For me, guys, I'll tell you this, and Eric, you can agree or disagree with me on this, and I'll let you chime in here after this. But for me, to consider yourself lucky at the tight end position, if you've got a guy that can run, block, and open holes, and you've got a guy that can catch 40 to 45 passes a year, get you about 500-600 yards receiving, and 10 touchdowns, you've got yourself a stud tight end for decades. Would you agree?
I would agree, but tight ends are evolving.
They are evolving.
Yeah. Not everybody's got a Kelsey, a Hooper, an Ertz, a Kittle. Those are 750 to 1,000 plus yard wide receivers or tight ends, and they act like a wide receiver. They're on the line. They're lining up in the slot. They can go each and every way. I mean, they're just a different breed. I think you have that with Higbee, and I think if you switch their roles, if Higbee's the one who goes out for passes and Everett blocks a little bit more, even though Higbee might be the better blocker, what Higbee did was not an aberration at the end of the year.
No.
Okay, he had a chance. He took it. The Rams should utilize that and be like, "You're our guy."
Yeah.
Like, Everett, you're our guy too. And we are counting on you, Higbee. We want to keep you doing what you're doing because we know what you can do. Not everybody has seen it. Yeah, you gave a little bit of a small sample, and there is now tape on you, but we're going to evolve you. Work with them. No need to go out and get another tight end. No need to switch up their roles and be like, all right, Everett, you go out. You be that 100-yard tight end every week. Not going to work.
Mm-mm. Well, and what I'm wondering is, what do you think of this trade, Eric? What do you think of Brandon Cooks to Cleveland for Chubbs or for Hunt?
Oh, you won't get Chubb. You might get Hunt. They just put a tender on him. A 2nd round tender, I believe. I mean, it could work. You just have to see if Cleveland would need to actually trade one of their wide receivers to bring on Cooks. Because Cooks isn't going there unless Odell or Jarvis are on their way out.
Yeah, because he's a religious guy who.
Because they are also going to utilize a 2 tight end set with Austin Hooper and David Njoku.
Yeah. Cleveland getting Austin Hooper was huge.
So maybe not there. You know, I would have said Buffalo until they traded for Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
backup running back to Devin Singletary. Right now, I mean,
what about the Jets?
You could the Jets. I know the Jets are going to be looking for a wide receiver. I was also thinking if you want to take advantage of Bill O'Brien, you could send him to Houston for a future second round draft pick.
Yeah.
You know, O'Brien will probably want to give you 2 1s for him.
Yeah, well, that would be great, right? Okay, so let's get to wide receiver because we spent a lot of time on the tight ends. And again, not to make giant comparisons, but Stephen Baker Jr. needs to get in the lineup, and I'm talking about Josh Reynolds. Eric, you know, and the fans out there know, I've been high on Josh Reynolds since draft day, right? So I love this kid. I love the effort that he puts in there. You know, you've got 2 solid receivers in Robert Woods and Cooks. And Reynolds is kind of the third, the fourth guy because you've got Cooper Kupp. And that's the thing is it's not going to change for him. It's going to be Woods and Reynolds. I think they're going to keep Kupp as the third guy and utilize him in the slot where he can do the most damage. So don't think by any stretch of the imagination, if the Rams trade Cooks, then their one wide receiver is going to be Woods and Kupp. Now, obviously, if they go 2 tight ends, I do think they'll bring Kupp in and utilize him in that spot. But when they go with their ace, their 3 formation, you're going to have your 2 wide receivers on the outside being Woods and Reynolds, and then they'll move Kupp into the slot. Quarterback, I'm not worried about. I haven't been worried about. I haven't been this excited about a quarterback since Kurt Warner. So I think we're set there. Running back is an absolute disaster. We've got a guy that can't even catch a pitch in Devin Henderson. In Henderson, I don't even know his name. I don't think Malcolm Brown has gotten a fair shot. Maybe he gets a bulk of the line. That's who I would go with as my starter. And I would look at Henderson and be like, "You're probably getting cut, just so you know, because I need people on the field that can actually do something." I need a guy, Eric, depth doesn't do you any good when he can't catch a pitch, when he can't hit a hole.
Okay, he can't catch a pitch. I said put him on special teams.
Well, who knows? Maybe he'll whiff the tackle like Darrell Henley. Anyway, I'm just not a fan, but we'll see what happens there. But we're about to find out what the Rams have at running back if they don't make any moves, because it's going to be interesting to see. Preseason has never been more important for a football team. I thought about that, but that would require worth less Snead to be smart, and I'm not sure he is. So, we'll have to wait and see. Offensively, though, and Hecker needs to be re-signed. I'll wrap up the offense with Hecker. Hecker needs to be re-signed, and hopefully he will. I would say Zerline more than Hecker is got to be the focus. If you don't re-sign Zerline, you're not going to win any of your close games unless you find a magical kicker. It happens, but more often than not, when a team lets go of a good kicker, it takes them a decade to find another one. Rams ran into that. We got lucky, but not really. It took us 8 years to find Jeff Wilkins after Mike Lansford. So sign Greg the Leg. But offensively right now, I say the Rams are somewhere around a C+, B-. They're not going to wow you, but they still have enough weapons that they can do some damage. Now, on the defense side of the ball for the Rams, this is where I get interested. We've got the best safety in football coming back from his injury in Johnny Johnson III. We've got Taylor Rapp showed, I think that's addition by subtraction right there. So we got Taylor Rapp at safety. We've got Johnny Johnson III. We're set on the back end. The cornerback situation, we have Jalen Ramsey for at least another year, and then you've got Chris Long Jr., who I think should be the starter at that spot, although it looks like the Rams are probably going to go with the kid that hurt his hand at the end of the year last year. But I actually think Chris Long Jr. might be a better corner. They let Nickel Roby-Coleman go, so I know Chris Long Jr. at the very least is going to be our new nickel corner. The cornerback position worries me, only because you dropped from such a talented group to an unknown. And that can be really scary because in the passing league that the NFL is, if you don't have corners that you can hang your hat on, that you've got to wait and see, that's nail-biting time right there. Linebackers, we're obviously not as good losing Fowler and Littleton, but we're not as bad as I thought we were when you think about it, because we still have a BQM. We get that kid back from Virginia that tore his leg up in the preseason. He's back. He's going to be 100%. That's a definite addition from Clay Matthews. I think we're better for not having Clay Matthews on the field, and we're certainly better with him because he's a tackling machine. And that's what the Ram linebackers are. The Ram linebackers aren't going to cover Alvin Kamara out of the backfield. That scares me. They're not going to be able to get pressure on the quarterback. But if you throw underneath, if you throw the screen pass, if you run the ball, you're down. You're down, tackled immediately. It's going to be like the Bucks of 99 where they just tackled everything. Defensive line brings me to the end here, and I'm going to put this on a bow. The addition of Leonard Floyd, I believe, provides the Rams with an edge rusher at defensive end that the Rams have not had really since what's his name? Chris Long? Yeah. The Howie's kid. Aaron Donald's first 2 years, he had Chris Long. Yeah. Aaron Donald, his first 2 years, had Chris Long on the outside, and Chris Long was a pretty good pass rusher. So now he's got one in Leonard Floyd. I don't know if Leonard Floyd is an edge rusher or an interior lineman. I believe he's an edge rusher, Eric, right?
No, he's an outside linebacker at a 3-4.
Okay. So the Rams are going to go with a 4-3. He'll probably be a defensive end. If they go 3-4, then he'll be the outside linebacker. So I think he's better than Fowler he's not better than Fowler at getting to the quarterback. Let's just be brutally honest, at least my observation. He can put pressure on the quarterback, and he's got some quicks, but he's really good at getting the ball carrier down. So he's going to help in stopping the run, which the Rams have really lacked. He's going to get pressure on the quarterback, and you do have to cover him. So Aaron Donald, if he gets double teamed, you're going to have Leonard Floyd one-on-one. That's going to create some opportunities now. Smart will probably be the replacement for Brockers. He's a big, thick body in the middle, not a pass rusher. The other end, not a pass rusher. So I am worried about getting to the quarterback, and that's why I give the defense right now a C- to just a plain old average C. And when you put that together, you're talking about a wild card at best appearance, at best. But there ain't no division title that I can foresee happening unless the Rams knock it out of the park in the draft. They get somebody that can really answer some of these question marks. They get themselves a good running back with that offense, then the defense doesn't have to be perfect. They just have to be like the 85 Ram defense, opportunistic and consistent. If they're those two things and they re-sign Greg the Leg and they get themselves a running back, I think the Rams could be 11-5 and maybe win the West, maybe get to the championship game. I don't think they're a Super Bowl team. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, Anthony, you're being such a homer. We're in such bad shape. Go look at the roster. Trust me. This might be another 9-7, 8-8 team, or it could be as good as an 11-5, maybe even 12-4 team if things bounce our way and we get a couple of breaks in the course of a season. This is not going to be as bad as I thought, but it really does depend on the free agent frenzy wrap-up and the draft. If they don't do much there, then yeah, we're looking at 8-8, 7-9, 9-7. Eric, first of all, your opinion on this assessment, and then Leonard Floyd.
All right, first of all, let's take off your rose-colored glasses for a moment, and let's rename the Los Angeles Rams to salary cap hell, because that's where you are. Listen, Joey, here's the good news. You signed Sean Robinson, formerly of the Detroit Lions, to a 2-year deal. He's going to line up next to Aaron Donald, and he's going to take a little bit of that pressure off.
Yep.
Now, when you go from a 3-4 to a 4-3 defense, Leonard Floyd is going to be in a position where he's not used to playing. They didn't play it in Georgia. They didn't play it in Chicago. Let me rephrase that. He's playing this hybrid position from Georgia with the Bears, and he lined up on the outside as a linebacker / DN. But if he's got to put his hand in the dirt, it's going to be a long season. If he's going to play outside linebacker, he's not going to be rushing the passer as much. So he's going to be somewhere between his low sacks for last year, 3.5, compared to Corey Littleton's sacks last year, which was 11.5. So he could be somewhere in between there. So if you get more than 3.5, it's a good 1-year deal. I don't think there's such thing as a bad 1-year deal unless you're giving a guy $50 million, which I've never heard of.
Yeah.
But it's a 1-year, $10 million deal with incentives can go up to about 13.5 from what I read. Okay. Leonard Floyd is a body that you guys needed to help fill a void left by Fowler and Littleton. Now, the only reason why Floyd signed with the Rams was because his position coach, who was in Chicago, went to LA, and he's familiar with the language. Okay, so watch him closely. If you're going to get to the quarterback, you're going to be calling for his head after week 3. I guarantee it. Okay. Floyd has a lot of potential, and you would think in a place in Chicago where he is able to roam freely in a 3-4 defense that you'd be able to get to the quarterback, get the ball, and he was nowhere to be found. People were calling for him all the time, trying to find out where he was. He showed tape on the field, but he just didn't have great game tape.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to miss Leonard Floyd whatsoever. There's a ton of talent coming out of college and it never translated to the NFL. So I've been telling Anthony this for like a few days now, but I don't see anything higher than a 4th place finish. Not with what the Cardinals have done. And I'll be brutally honest. The salary cap been releasing Todd Gurley, even though you saved about $2.5 million. There's only so much you can stretch out of it. And so you're gonna be scraping a lot of the bottom of the pile to fill up your roster.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, I don't want to see any team like this unless it was Green Bay or San Francisco for that matter.
Yeah.
Or Dallas for that matter, which they're going to be there anyways pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just the way it's going. And the Bears are semi there already with some of their moves that they've made and all the money that they've invested. But as far as the Rams go, yeah, I mean, if Hector and Zerline are willing to take a discount or re-sign them, that's going to shore up special teams right there. Find the 49ers just released an offensive lineman. I think it is Person. I think it was.
Yep.
He's out there. So, I mean, like, you got to be calling everybody. Like, I would be calling Kyle Long to see if he would come out of retirement.
Yeah.
That's as far as I would be going and being like, hey, we need offensive linemen. Get as many bodies in there as you can. You can always cut guys during camp. I mean, that's what happens anyways. But, I didn't see the release coming. I thought it was going to be more of a trade or if they would hold on to it.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't see that release happening with Gurley. But I also don't think you're starting running backs on the roster either right now.
I don't either.
I thought that Fowler was going to re-sign with the Rams. I was hoping that you'd actually tag Littleton and then let Fowler go. But then as the time kept going and Fowler wasn't getting tagged, I figured that he wasn't going to stay. He was too valuable on the open market. But they were going to re-sign Fowler. Man, Fowler left too. And that's why the Rams jumped on Leonard Floyd. That's reason number 2, because they needed to fill a void left by two guys who were key cogs in that defensive backfield.
Yeah. Well, what about the Bears?
It's going to be interesting. Either these guys are going to plug in and play and do really well, or it's going to be a long season on defense for you.
No
but
kidding.
I feel like your secondary. I think you just need to add another quarterback, maybe 2. And I've mentioned a couple of guys, for the Bears that could possibly help out, like a Prince of Mukamura. I've mentioned Leonard Floyd before, so I knew the Bears weren't going to keep him around, but just get somebody who's serviceable and who can cover a wide receiver, and
all right,
you're going to be competitive.
I have a question.
It might be a long season.
I have a question. And the question is this. How long have you been a clairvoyant?
What do you mean?
Well, I seem to recall about a year ago, after Foles went down with an injury. I happen to remember somebody saying, if Minshew keeps this up, don't be surprised if Nick Foles is a Bear. Fast forward to March, Nick Foles is a Bear.
Yeah, you like that?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, E. Give us your Chicago Bear breakdown and the moves that you've made.
All right, well, I'm gonna save Nick Foles for a little later. I just want to say, what the hell are you doing signing Jimmy Graham? What is that crap? Listen, you just gave 2 years, $16 million to Jimmy freaking Graham, who is a shell of his former self. You could have had Eric Ebron for $4 million less. You could have allocated your money for Graham and gave $15 million, $6 million more than Cleveland gave Austin Hooper, and overpaid for Austin Hooper. Yes, I would have said overpaid it out of London. But what the heck is Jimmy Graham?
He played at Green Bay, Eric.
Fine, I'm done. Jimmy Graham's going to be cut before game 1.
But he was a Packer.
To his chest.
Yeah.
Anyways, so all right, that's my whole crap on Jimmy Graham. I think it's one of the worst signings one of the worst signings they've had in the last decade, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to signing number 2, and actually, it's technically signing number 3. The first signing, they ended up keeping Danny Trevathan on a 3-year deal, and I love the move because they lost. They lost two tight ends. They lost 2 linebackers that filled in for Trevathan and Roquan Smith last year. They lost Kevin Pierre-Louis to Washington. He got a small deal, but he deserved it. And then they lost Nick Kwiatkowski to the Raiders on a 3-year, $21 million deal. I was hoping the Bears would be able to keep him for depth, but they re-signed Danny Trevathan, and as long as Trevathan could play 15, 16 games, the Bears are in really good shape at linebacker. So that was one of their bigger free signings right when free agency pretty much started, or when the new league year started. So I was happy about that. But then, and Anthony, you can chime in on this. Then they signed Robert Quinn to a 3-year, $70 million deal. Now, here's the thing. You either give Quinn 3 years, $70 million, or you pick up Leonard Floyd's 5th-year option at around the same amount of money where he would be making that Quinn is making this year. But Quinn gets the quarterback more and knows how to do it. He's a veteran. He lined up outside of Khalil Mack. Got Akeem Hicks. I like the signing. I just think it was too much money.
I think it was too much money, and here's my concern with Robert Quinn. I didn't like him coming out of college, if you remember, Eric. I was pissed when the Rams drafted Robert Quinn, a guy with a criminal record who was an absolute piece of human fecal matter. And my biggest issue with him was off the field because he's not a good human being. He's an awful human being. But I guess he's less awful than what's been breaking in the news of late, so we don't hear a lot about him. He's a scumbag. He's a thug, and he's a loser. Now, other than that, what about his on-field? Well, he makes up for it on field by playing when he wants to. I've never seen an athlete take more plays off through the course of a football game than Robert Quinn does through the course of a game. You go ahead and watch him this season, Eric. Yeah, he's going to make some splash plays. He's going to get some sacks on 3rd down. He's going to do his little dance. He's going to show off. And then he's going to go missing for 3 weeks. And then he's going to have a 3-sack game. And by the end of the year, he's going to end up with 7, 8, 9 sacks. And people are going to be like, oh, Robert Quinn. But on that 3rd and 1, when you need the stop to win the game, and he knows it's a running play, and he knows he's not good enough to challenge any lineman in the National Football League, not even Noteboom with 2 torn knee ligaments on a cart, he'll stand up, he'll get blocked out, and they'll pick up the 1st down. And you'll lose the game. That's Robert Quinn. So if you utilize him on pass-only situations, I think you might have a little bit more productivity out of him. But I'm telling you right now, the strategy is going to be run left. Run away from Khalil Mack and run right at Robert Quinn because he's Captain Roller Skates. But it's a passing league, and this is where I like the move from a football standpoint. It's not a move I ever would have made, ever. But from a football standpoint, I understand it. From a football standpoint, he gets off the ball and he puts pressure on the quarterback. In today's football league, where they throw 70% of the time and only run 30, that bodes well when you have a guy who takes pleasure in stopping the pass versus the run. So I think that's going to be a huge bonus. For those of you that don't know, Robert Quinn out of college was accused for raping a young lady at North Carolina. And although he wasn't, although the charges were dropped, he never denied, and she never came out and said, no, he didn't actually do it. And there were witnesses, and this looks like, because this is before #MeToo, it looked like a classic case of shut the woman up, he's an athlete, he's too important, he's got a career, here's some money, shut your mouth. It looks a lot like that, because Robert Quinn never denied the rape, or as he called, I had relations with that woman, to quote Bill Clinton. But and it's widely been accepted that they weren't dating. So I'm not somebody that just believes women, but coming out of college, this smelt funny, even back then, at that time. So, and Robert Quinn's had his share of off-the-field issues when he was in St. Louis, whether it was telling a police officer to F off, whether it was, face-palming a kid who was asking for his autograph, or the domestic abuse charges that came up against him his third year in the league. Back then, they didn't suspend guys for domestic issues off the field. You take a look at his track record. He should have been out of the league a long time ago, just off of attitude alone. So I have no respect for Robert Quinn as a human being, but from a football standpoint, like I said, this move does make some sense. That's my take on Robert the Con Quinn.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it. I'm like, the Bears really need to spend $70 million on him, and I thought the Bears were in salary cap hell too, but they got $70 million. It's awesome.
Yeah.
$60 million is like high end. Awesome. That's $86 million right there, and two guys you don't even need.
Yeah.
But hey, this is why I still would have drafted Deshaun Watson third overall in the 2017 draft and still been in a better position than we are now. All right, so I'm still waiting for them to sell wide receiver or even an offensive lineman. I have no idea what's going on. Wide receiver market is slow except for a couple trades. I still want them to go after Robbie Anderson. I think he could stretch his field. We'll find out. I mean, we'll see what happens.
You know what I'm interested in, Eric, more than anything? You've got Khalil Mack, who I don't know much about him personally. I know a lot about Nick Foles because, Nick Foles was a Ram. Nick Foles hates Robert Quinn. Can't stand him. They don't get along. And I'm really curious what Nick Foles' attitude is. This is a man who's very religious, who's very family-oriented, who's very kid-friendly, and you're bringing in a guy like Robert Quinn. They already have a history together, and it's not a good one. Robert Quinn was the one that was calling for Bradford to get back in the starting lineup over Nick Foles, because that was smart. Because he liked Bradford's fact that Bradford thought he hung the moon and treated him right, and Nick Foles put him in his place when needed to be done. I don't know what the locker room dynamic is going to be in Chicago, and you cannot overstate team chemistry enough, especially in a football season where you only play 16 weeks and you're around each other 5-6 days a week. This isn't like basketball where you're together 3-4 days a week and then you're away from each other. You are around each other all the time. This is another reason why I wasn't a fan of the Quinn move.
They both have 3 years on their deal remaining. But yeah, we'll get into the Nick Foles trade. So the Bears let Teddy Bridgewater go without getting him to sign a contract.
Damn it.
And the contract terms were, or the contract money was pretty similar to what he signed in Carolina. I was all for Teddy Bridgewater. I was like, if you can get him, perfect, get him. Because I think he had development that, hasn't been seen in a long time in Chicago. And no, I'm not talking about race. All right? I've heard the race card too much. The race card, not race card. The race card too much in here. And when you name a couple of the Bears quarterbacks that have a different color skin, it's like, yeah, but look at the names you mentioned. It doesn't matter. Skin color, it doesn't matter to me. But Teddy Bridgewater signed with Carolina because of 2 reasons. Reason number 1, he was familiar with the offense that's going to be instilled in Carolina. Because he knows some of the coaches and he's very familiar with what they would be calling. Number 2, which I think shows a lot of Teddy Bridgewater's character, is that he didn't want to compete with Mitch Trubisky because he was already on the roster. Dude, you decided Carolina and Cam Newton is still on the roster at $18 million. What are you freaking talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. So then, after Bridgewater left without signing, I was hoping the Bears would do everything they could to not let him leave or not let him get off the phone. But then there were talks of the Bears looking at Cam, but we don't know the dynamics of that because the Bears couldn't get in touch with Cam's doctors or see anything or talk to them physically because of what's going on right now with the coronavirus.
Wait a minute. Hold on. You're telling me because of the coronavirus they couldn't get people on the phone?
I don't know the dynamics.
Yeah.
I just know that maybe they couldn't get their own doctors to check out Cam. I don't know. But thank you for not checking out Cam Newton. Didn't want Cam Newton. Thank you for Marcus Mariota for signing with the Las Vegas Raiders. Go be your backup over there because I didn't want you here anyways. And then there was the whole Andy Dalton thing. Oh, the Bears are looking at Dalton. There was a rumor coming out the Bears were going to trade a second-round pick for Dalton. And I'm glad it was just a rumor because you'd have been stupid to do that.
Well, they signed Jimmy Graham for $60 million.
Don't get me started. So then the Bears send a 4th-round compensatory pick to Jacksonville. Jacksonville picks up no money in the deal because that's smart for Nick Foles. I just found it ironic that Nick Foles, after all this time, is now a Bear. So they gave up a 4th-round compensatory pick for him, and you're saying there's going to be a QB competition. Well, in order for a QB competition to happen, there's got to be a second quarterback on the roster who's actually good. And, well, Chase Daniel's off in Detroit, so it's not him. I think Tyler Bray's gone, so it's not him. So that would mean Mitchell Trubisky is going to be the Bears' backup. You don't take on all that money. He originally signed a 4-year, $88 million deal with the Jaguars. Yeah. And with compensation and it could have went up to $100. It could have went up to $102 million. So he got about $30 to $35 million last year alone with Jacksonville, only playing 4 games. 4 games. And the Bears took on all that money. So that's another $50 million on top of Quinn's $70 million. So that's $120. Plus a 16, that's $136, and then whatever they signed Tariq for in free agency before free agency started. So I mean, you say you're in salary cap hell, you have no flexibility. You just spent over $136 million. Okay, awesome. But you still didn't get an offensive lineman, and you still didn't get a wide receiver, which you need because you let Taylor Gabriel go, and Anthony Miller is not a number 2 wide receiver; he's a slot wide receiver.
Hey, Anthony Miller was a Pro Bowler at San Diego, dude. He was awesome with the Chargers.
He was not
Yeah, Anthony Miller's with the Chargers from the early 80s into the 90s.
Yeah, he's probably in a nursing home right now. So where they're allocating their money, I will tell you this. Ryan Pace will be the first general manager fired the day after the 2020 season.
Well, and here's so I know you said the race card's been played a lot, and I want to touch on this. When you pass on Deshaun Watson because you like the car that the white guy drives, or you like the fact that he wears jeans, you pass up.
You don't even entertain him at dinner.
Right.
That's the problem. You don't even entertain him.
Right. You pass up on what's the Lamar Jackson. I guess you could throw that in there.
Everybody passes on Lamar
Yeah,
Jackson.
exactly. I mean, to me, I was getting a little worried because Teddy Bridgewater comes in and you don't sign him and you offered him the same money that he went to Carolina for. Did he not sign there because of the perception of race? But when they sign Nick Foles ain't going to go play for a racist. He just isn't. He's just not that kind of a character. He's a religious man, like I said. He's a family man, and he's been in this league too long to play those kinds of games. That, to me, alleviated all of those concerns.
Something like that would get around the legal like wildfire.
Right.
If there was an organization that was racist in that regard.
Yep.
And for them, the Bears to trade for him, I mean, Foles could have probably put his head and be like, listen, I'm not playing for an organization, and do it like that.
What?
Yeah, he could have said that. But
Well, and think about this.
They wouldn't have done anything.
And think about this too, Eric. The amount, the advantages that you could take over that team because of their own bigotry and stupidity. What the Niners did to Chicago would be a yearly occurrence. So that's why I think it's a bunch of hogwash. As far as the Bears, I don't think they're a winner. I don't think they're a loser. I think they're just kind of And when you're kind of in free agency, then your draft is really dependent on whether or not you're going to stay the same, move back, or move forward. So let's talk about...
Hold on. I think this. I think if they can get one of those wide receivers that are currently out there, okay, to be a legit threat on the outside. I'm not saying he's got to be a 1,000-yard wide receiver. We have that now in Robinson, okay? And had I known that DeAndre Hopkins was available, I'd have said, hey, we'll give you David Montgomery. You need a running back. We'll give you Montgomery, who's been a year in the league, who's a rookie coming into his second year, and we'll take DeAndre Hopkins and pitch in about $10 million, okay? And we'll throw in a draft pick because you need him, but it's not going to be a high draft pick because blah, 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 okay? And we'll work out the dynamics. Had I known that DeAndre Hopkins was available for poop on a stick, I'd have freaking sent my general manager and my owner there too.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you don't know unless you call. Like, oh, hey, Houston's saying DeAndre Hopkins is available. Let's make a phone call. But no. Let's not do that. That would be too smart. We could have DeAndre Hopkins and Allen Robinson on the outside. No. Can't do that.
Well, I think Houston is equally as stupid as Chicago, and I think you might see the...
Houston is the dumpster fire. And I would actually entertain calling them and trading for Deshaun Watson right now.
Yeah, I would too. I think that organization is done.
Quarterbacks for one.
I think that organization... I would trade Nick Foles. Nick Foles will pay his contract for Deshaun Watson. Done. Because they're dumb. They're dumb. And that's going to be the first GM fired. Then your guy, then my guy. Look.
No, because the GM is a damn head coach, and they're not going to fire O'Brien.
Oh, they're going to fire O'Brien.
There's no. O'Brien is buddy with the owner. Okay, O'Brien ain't getting fired.
Oh man, I would hate to be an Oiler fan, a Texan fan. Then, well, guys, Houston will be one of the worst teams in football for a long time.
You should see people freaking talking about, I can't believe I'm a Texas fan. How do I get out of it? I'm like, dude, if you jump ship on the Texans, when you're a fair weather fan, David Wagner,
Yeah, well, at the same time, when you've got a coach owner situation like that, that's bad, man. That's bad.
Coming from a Cubs fan, it's not that bad.
When your coach sucks, it's that bad. Not 108 years bad, but it's bad. It's something.
Well, the Texans are going through is nothing compared to being a Cubs fan.
Yeah, well, you know what? The Cubs have won more championships than the Texans ever have.
Well, the Cubs have also been around for 1,000 years, and the Texans have been around since it's only 17.
Yeah, but Houston's never even made it to the
Damn time.
Eric. Houston's never even made it to the AFC championship game. They haven't even made it that far. Farthest they've ever gotten is the divisional round. And with their head coach now, O'Brien, they'll never make it out of the wild card round if they make the playoffs ever again. All right. Moving forward. Free agent winners. There's 3 teams that immediately come to my mind for free agent winners. Oakland Raiders. Yeah, I'm going to do that with the Raiders too. So, forever, you can get a laugh. I'm not calling you the Vegas Raiders because you're not. The Oakland Raiders are the big winners. I cannot believe that what they've done. You mentioned Mariota. I think that's a great backup. And I think he can serve in that role. And I think he can be one of those. I think he could be the Frank Reich of our era at backup quarterback. I don't think he's a starter, but I think he could do a very good job as a backup quarterback. And you talk about providing a threat and a difference in quarterback play. You prepare all week for David Carr and then Mariota comes in. Yeah, you're screwed. Corey Littleton, can't speak highly enough about that move. The Raiders have done some things now that have solidified their defense, have solidified their offense. I think the Raiders have been really impressive. That's my number 1. I'm going to keep it in the AFC. And I'm not going in numerical order. I don't think...
Don't forget their, I mentioned this earlier, but don't forget their Nick Kwiatkowski signing 3 years, about $21 million. He was with the Bears last year. So
Yeah,
great for,
absolutely. You've got 2 linebackers.
He's very underrated. He's going to be very underrated next to Littleton.
You've got 2 linebackers that can stop the run and rush the passer, and you've got a linebacker in Littleton that can cover any running back out of the backfield in this league. He is that those 2 linebackers have solidified their defense alone. I'm not saying the Raiders are the most impressive, but these are my top 3. No particular order. The next one that I want to talk about is the Denver Broncos. The Orange Crush have crushed it this offseason. And if you are a Bronco fan, you have more than enough reason to be optimistic. Now, it is a little bit of an eyebrow raise with letting go of Joe Flacco and what they're planning on doing from there.
Really, I would give it bad an eye. I'm just glad that they released him the day after the Bears traded for Nick Foles.
Well, what my question is, who's your quarterback now?
Drew Lock.
You're going to take that chance. Did you see anything out of Lock?
The way he played at the end of the season, I will take that chance and ride that horse.
Okay.
Funny. No pun intended. I will ride that horse into 2020 all day, every day.
Okay. Well, then there you have it. So they obviously feel the same way you do. There is no question in my mind that the Denver Broncos are immediately in contention to challenge Kansas City for that division and maybe even for the conference.
Oh, wait, say that again? Say that again to the people in the back.
I said I am not going to be surprised whatsoever if Denver is now the number 1 competition for the Kansas City Chiefs for both the division and for the conference, which someone else...
Did you read off my script?
Yeah, someone else I know has been riding the Denver horse for a long, long time. And by a long, long time, I mean really middle of the year last year to the end. Eric, I'll let you chime in on these first 2 that I've covered. I wanted to get my piece in on Denver because I know you got a lot to say about that situation because you've been calling Denver since week 8 of last year, week 9. But go ahead, your take on the Raiders and the Broncos.
Raiders, I agree with your assessment 100%. I want to see, outside of bringing in Mariota, I want to see a little bit more on the offensive side of the ball, see what they do. They did sign, I don't even know if this really makes that big of a deal, to be honest with you, but they did sign Jason Witten. I'm 50-50 with that signing only because you already have Darren Waller. Listen, unless you're going to put Waller on the outside as a wide receiver and completely change what he does, I hope the signing was just for depth purposes because Waller is your number one and should be your number one, and you shouldn't look anywhere else except unless Wheaton is wide open in the end zone with 2 seconds left and you need to complete a pass. That's how I look at it. I think Wheaton brings a lot of leadership skills to the offensive side of the ball. I want to see another playmaker on the Raiders' offense. You don't need a running back. Josh Jacobs is a stud. We already know that. I wouldn't mind seeing them get another wide receiver. Tyrell Williams can't do it all. And I wouldn't be surprised if they draft one or even move up in the draft to get a CD Lamb or Ruggs the third, I believe it is, from Alabama. But that's what I want to see. I think the Raiders could have a really good season if they have a really good draft, especially getting another weapon for Carr or Mariota, whoever plays the position the most. But the Raiders are trending in the right direction as far as the Broncos go. Okay, well, Drew Lock is their number one. They signed, actually, they let go of Flacco, but they signed Jeff Driscoll to be their backup. So, okay, whatever. Yeah, he had 50 yards rushing until his starts last year with the Lions. They didn't really go anywhere. They were a dumpster fire. The Lions are the Lions. But it's a capable backup just in case you need one. And they're putting all their locks on Drew Lock. But early in the new year, A.J. Bowie was traded. Chris Harris ended up leaving and signing with the Chargers, which I think is, man, the Chargers defense is going to be nasty. But we're talking about Denver here. Denver, actually, they have another Chargers connection too that I'm going to get into. The Chargers played hardball with Melvin Gordon last year. And they're like, we're not going to give you a new contract. Melvin Gordon shows up, he plays. Melvin Gordon for 3 years gets outplayed by Austin Eckler. Yeah, you heard that right. Got outplayed by Austin Eckler, had one 1,000-yard season. Eckler was a better pass catcher. Eckler was a better blocker. Just watching, you could tell. He was Philip Rivers' go-to guy. Well, they ended up giving Eckler a big deal. They let Gordon walk. Okay, which we all knew Gordon was going to walk. But where does Gordon go? Oh, Denver signs Melvin Gordon, 2-year deal. Well, let's look at this from Denver's perspective. They have an undrafted rookie in Philip Lindsay, who took the league by storm 2 seasons ago, ended up getting injured in week 16 or 17 of that year, and then had a decent year last year, along with, I believe it's Royce Freeman. But then Freeman's going to be sliding into this third running back role, and Philip Lindsay gets screwed out of being an undrafted rookie. Now he's going to take a back seat to Melvin Gordon. I don't know if it's technically an upgrade, but it does give the Broncos another weapon, which to go with their young wide receivers in Deshaun Hamilton and Cortland Sutton. I do like the signing for that reason. I just think that they're screwing over Philip Lindsay, in my opinion. I would go with the cheaper option at running back because I think Lindsay's actually really good. But I guess anytime you have a chance to get Melvin Gordon, sure. But I think I know why Melvin Gordon signed with the Broncos. Take it back at the Chargers 2 games a year. And I'll tell you, Denver, all they have to do is beat Kansas City once, so they're going to be in the thick of it for a division. But I'm penciling in Denver right now on March 21st, 2020. I'm penciling in them for a wild card.
Wow. Well,
I think Denver's done some good things. I really do. And you know what? They're keeping quiet about it. They're not making a big deal out of it. They're going about their signings. I don't know what it's like in the Colorado market right now, but as far as sports talk goes. But I'll tell you, they can be a scary team if they also have fill in some holes.
Well,
and have a good draft.
Chris Harris Jr. is leaving, so that is a concern.
It is a concern, but I mean, again, they already traded for Bowie from Jacksonville. I mean, Jacksonville's getting rid of everybody, as we can see. So I won't be surprised if Fournette leaves, but I doubt it. But
there's a guy the Rams should sign.
I think they knew they were going to lose Harris anyway, so that's why they made that trade. And I mean, mean, I think they said a fourth rounder for him, so it wasn't that big of a loss for a draft pick.
No, but it was a big loss as far as the player goes. I think the Rams should go after Leonard Fournette, but that's just my opinion.
Who's your third team in the AFC?
It's not the AFC. My third team is actually in the NFC, and it is the Arizona Cardinals. You can't get DeAndre Hopkins and make some of the moves that the Cardinals have made and not put them on their winner list. DeAndre Hopkins alone puts you on your winners list. Now, do I think the Cardinals and everyone's, Cardinals are going to overtake the Rams? The Cardinals still have more problems than the Titanic as it was going down in the ocean, right? They still have an offensive line problem. They still have defensive issues, and they still have a cornerback issue. And their safety position doesn't look very sound. The Cardinals have a lot of work to do before I'm going to be worried about the Cardinals overtaking anybody in that division. But DeAndre Hopkins is a massive leap in the right direction. And I do like the fact that the Cardinals are aggressive this offseason and that they're going for it because they have made some other moves that have been very impressive. So the Cardinals are well on their way, E. And they are, for me, the third team that I'm picking as my winner.
Yeah, the Cardinals made a splash, man. They tendered a contract to Kenyon Drake. If he can keep up what he did in the second half of the year after the trade deadline and run the way he can, Kyler Murray with another year under his belt should be better. A lot of people are saying, can he make the leap like Lamar Jackson? I'm going to pump the brakes on that and say he's not going to win MVP, but if he can improve his accuracy, he's still got Larry Fitz, which again, there's always Mr. All Reliable there, and then you got Hopkins you're throwing to the outside. The only position that has really been hell for the Cardinals has been tight end position. So unless you're going to use a tight end for blocking purposes, like you really don't need a high-profile tight end. You just need somebody who's going to give Murray time. You got the running back, you got the two wide receivers. Definitely, I know there's another one out there, third wide receiver on their team that is probably going to end up playing opposite of Hopkins while Larry Fitz plays the slot. But they're on their way, and with Chandler Jones on the defense, I mean the defense can get a little bit more solidified, but they can be a scary team to play moving forward next year. I do like that pick.
Who are your three winners?
All right, my three winners so far in free agency, in no particular order. First, and I'll probably get an eyebrow raised here, but I'm going to go with one of them, not number one, but one of them is the Colts. I don't mind them going after Phillip Rivers for a one-year deal at all. I think his weapons downgrade from the Chargers to the Colts. And Marlon Mack's going to have a good year just because he's going to catch a lot of passes from Phillip Rivers. Here's the thing that the Colts really need. They need T.Y. Hilton to play 16 games. That's the only way the Colts go far. If Hilton misses, you can't rely on 10 to 15 targets a game for Jack Doyle. You can't do that for Paris Campbell. You can't keep dumping the ball off to the running back because it just doesn't work. You got to stretch the field. Do I think the Colts made a move that they didn't need to? Yes. I don't think they gave Jacoby Brissett enough time, to be honest with you. But if Phillip Rivers has anything left in the tank, this is the year we're going to find out. He looked like trash all of last year, or I should say mainly the second half of last year, when he was just throwing pick after pick after pick. But I think he can lead the Colts to a 9-7, 10-6 record. I do. And that is because they also traded a first-round pick to the Niners for DeForest Buckner. Yeah. And I love the trade for the Colts. Love it for the Colts. They get young on defense, And I still haven't said exactly what else they did on offense. But they get young on defense, they get a leader on defense, and I think that defense is going to be really scary to play against in 2020. Their other signing that they did on offense, and Anthony was a big fan of this guy, wanted the Rams to sign him, but they re-signed Anthony Costanzo to a 2-year deal to play alongside Quentin Nelson and shore up the left side of that offensive line. Okay? Now all Philip Rivers really has to do is not worry about the left side of the line, but keep an eye out on the right side of the line. And that'll provide him protection, something that he didn't have a lot of his last year with the Chargers. So if he gets time, Rivers could be dangerous with that team next season. They just got to keep him upright and keep Mac healthy as well. I don't like what the Colts have done, and I know Rivers is a 1-year, $25 million deal. And I always said there's nothing wrong with a 1-year deal. Man, $25 million is a steep price to pay for a 37-year-old quarterback.
Yeah. All right, who's? Give me another one.
All right.
Let me just say this. Let me just say this about the Colts really quick. I like what the Colts moved. The DeForest Buckner move was massive, and I think that they are going to be. If they're formidable on defense, that's going to create a lot of opportunities for their offense. And yeah, the Costanzo re-sign was awesome. Go ahead, E.
All right. I'll tell you another team that defensively, man, has really, really taken a step forward. Okay? And Anthony's not a fan of this team, and for good reason, because they play the same division his beloved Browns play in. But the Baltimore Ravens on defense is going to look, not have the same feel, but is going to have a 2000 Raven feel to it. And I say that because they went out and signed Michael Brockers. They went out and traded for Calais Campbell. They put the franchise tag on their outside linebacker, Matthew Judon. Man, they are scary defensively. And anybody who plays them this year is going to feel it the day after, and maybe even a week after. So keep an eye out on the teams that play a week after they play the Ravens, because it's going to be hard-hitting. The Ravens, their defense. They're not going to let what happened to Tennessee happen to them again in 2020. But I am curious on what they do on the offensive side of the ball. They traded Hayden Hurst for a draft pick. So Andrews is their number one tight end. Remember, they had 3 tight ends that they played with last year. Andrews, Hayden Hurst, and Nick Boyle. When they traded Hayden Hurst to Atlanta after Atlanta lost Austin Hooper to Cleveland, and so Andrews is their number one. Hurst is still a really good tight end, too. So to give up on him quickly and not utilize him, I understand what the Ravens are doing and why. But what I want to see is wide receivers. I want to see 2 or 3 wide receiver signings or even draft. Use some of that draft capital, move up in the first round and grab one of those top wide receivers. Because if you can get that just gives Lamar another weapon. It takes the focus off the tight ends, and it also opens up more running lanes for Mark Ingram and Gus Edwards and whatnot. But I like what the Ravens have done on defense. Man, they're getting back to their roots, and that's scary.
Yeah. They've already won 2 Super Bowls. It's more than the Browns have won. Which really pisses me off.
And it's just nuts what they're able to do. As far as another team going through in free agency, not necessarily just signing a guy, okay? Not necessarily signing a guy, but making a trade. And I think it's a trade that's been a long time coming. It's a trade that solidifies their position in the division and vaults them to take over first place for the next few years. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about the Buffalo Bills. You go out, you don't make a ton of signings, but you do make one big trade, and that is getting Josh Allen another weapon in Stephon Diggs. Man, I tip my cap. Thank you, Buffalo, for acquiring Stephon Diggs and getting him out of the NFC North. Okay. I love the trade for Buffalo. I know there was a lot of picks that were exchanged as well. But Buffalo is starting to make that leap and say, you know what? I don't care if Tom Brady left the division. He could have stayed with the Patriots. We're taking this division now, and we're making the move. You know, the Dolphins are rebuilding. The Jets, they might be stuck in limbo right now. We don't know what they're doing. They really haven't made any moves. But they acquire Stephon Diggs from Minnesota. They sign defensive tackle Vernon Butler, who's a very underrated signing, and sign Quentin Jefferson as well, both at 2-year deals. That defense is already stacked. Don't forget, they already signed Josh Norman opposite of Trey White on the outside. So if Josh Norman could be 70% of what he was, that old Buffalo man,
Yeah, it's going to...
Buffalo's doing. I love it.
Buffalo, in my opinion, made leaps to win that division. They are unequivocally one of the better teams in the AFC already. And with these additions that they've made, I will be shocked if Buffalo doesn't win the division this year. Something would have been drastically wrong with the Bills. Injuries, moves, I don't know, but I will be shocked. Buffalo definitely deserves to be on that list. Here's my list of 3 teams that did not impress in free agency. And the first one, and again, this is in no particular order, is linked to my next one that I'm going to talk about. The New England Patriots. You knew there was a strong possibility you were going to lose Tom Brady. You've done nothing in the last 3 years to ensure his replacement. You have an aging wide receiver with injury problems. You have another wide receiver who just got, injured in his rookie year, and you're so quick to get rid of receivers that I don't even know that he's going to get much of a chance. You've got Sony Michel, but your offensive line has been weak to say the least. Your defense has been, let's just say, beneficiaries of some very questionable no calling. All of that is gone now. With Brady leaving New England, the Patriots are going to not get as many calls. I saw a great meme where it had Belichick and Brady talking, and it says, I just have one question. In this divorce, who gets the refs? So I'm looking at this going, no Brady and a no-name quarterback, they're not going to get all the calls. They're still going to get some because they're New England, and the league is going to want to prop them up and keep them relevant. But New England's done nothing whatsoever to solidify their football team. And I think it's important that we talk about this, Eric, because the media is going to spin this as, oh, New England's fine. They've got Belichick. New England's New England. New England's got a plan. New England's got a method. New England doesn't have a plan. They've shown they didn't have a plan. Their whole thing was when Brady retires, we'll go off into existence as one of the greatest franchises of all time, and we'll go back to 20 years of limbo. Because they made no effort. Trading all those draft picks over the years, everyone's talked about how great and brilliant the Patriots were because they traded their first-round pick and manipulated the draft, and they always seem to get good players. You never got a quarterback. And you figure with all those stockpiled ones, you might be able to package 3 picks in the first round to move up into the top 5 and get yourself, a Deshaun Watson, a Patrick Mahomes, right? You could have gotten a Lamar Jackson, but the Patriots didn't do that. So now the Patriots are stuck with, I don't even know who their quarterback is. No one knows who their quarterback is.
Jared Sim.
Yeah, he's good. Remember, he played at that one college with that one team in the helmet.
Yeah, Auburn?
Yeah, like I said, that one college with the helmet. No one likes Auburn. People in Auburn don't like Auburn, all right? Roll Tide. Listen, the bottom line is, no one thinks this kid is anywhere near the level of quarterback, not of Tom Brady, that's unfair, but not even the level of quarterback of, I don't know, a Jimmy G. So, to me, the Patriots are the big losers because this day was coming and they've never prepared for it. Your take on that, E?
Well, it's funny you mentioned Brady. You know, as soon as Brady signed with Tampa, there was Jameis Winston to the Patriots. I wouldn't even do that if I were New England. Sorry, I wouldn't do that. I think their plan is to go ahead with Jared Stidham and maybe even draft somebody late in the draft or third, fourth round and have him be the backup, or try to find like a Brian Hoyer or something to be the backup. I mean, they're trying to solidify the defense. Fine, great. You need a quarterback. And I don't know what they see in this kid. He had a little bit of PT in preseason. I mean, New England. We're gonna find out who all the bandwagon fans are of the Patriots when people stop going to their games and whatnot. So.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see the plan. The reason why, that everybody thinks that New England's going to be okay, and it's the only reason that I can think of is that in Week 1 in 2008, when Brady went down with a torn ACL, and they put in Castle, and they went 11-5, even though I think they still missed the playoffs at 11-5, that they were able to still go through with it, but they didn't have they don't have the weapons now that they had then.
No.
Okay, and Castle never started a game in college at USC. Came in, basically went 11-5 in that after he took over for Brady in Week 1, and that's why I think people are going back to it. But again, the NFL has changed in 12 years. Okay, and you need decent to really good quarterback play. It's not amazing quarterback play. So, I'm expecting the Patriots to be as low as third place in the division. I mean, if they even win 10 games, I'll be surprised.
Yeah, well, they won't win 10 games. I don't think they're going to win 8 games, let alone 9. Okay, now I'm taking a deep breath here. This is going to raise some eyebrows. And I want you to I really want you to think about what I'm saying. Eric, you already know it, probably from what I had said a second ago, and some of you probably already know what I'm about to say. I think the Buccaneers are my disappointing team, one of my disappointing teams, because they went out and they signed Tom Brady. You have deep threat wide receivers, guys that love to run downfield. There's a problem. You have a quarterback that can't throw downfield. I'm sorry, but Evans is not a possession wide receiver. He's not a Shannon Sharp. He's a Michael Irvin. The problem is, at least that Cowboy team had Alvin Harper. This team has 2 Michael Irvins. Or flip that around. Sorry, 2 Alvin Harpers. 2 deep threats. No possession receiver. Their tight end is good, and he'll get utilized. Sure. But he's not going to wow you. I had Cameron Brate, right? That's who we're talking about.
Cameron Brate is one tight end, and O.J. Howard is the other.
Yeah, O.J. Howard is good. O.J. Howard might be the guy that benefits the most from this move. But their wide receivers aren't going to get a lot of options because they're going to be forced to come underneath, and those guys aren't good route runners. I'm sorry, go back and watch the film. They're great at getting open because they can run by people, right? Or expose a zone. But in man coverage where you got to run a crisp route to beat a guy, okay, let's say they improve their route running. You still have a quarterback that can't put the ball on the money 15, 20, 20 yards downfield. Well, they'll just go underneath the 10 yards. Too much traffic. Too much traffic. And the Buccaneers offensive line, does anybody really think that this Buccaneer offensive line is Super Bowl caliber? Playoff caliber? Really? And then you look at the running back situation. Everyone's high on this one running back, Jones. I'm not. I think he's decent. I think he's gonna definitely see an uptick in numbers because everybody's gonna be gearing up to stop the pass because people are stupid. But they'll figure it out. The only thing that makes this move make any sense is Bruce Arians. The man can work magic with an old quarterback. He's done it time and time again. And if he could have Jameis Winston help him win 6, 7, 8 games, imagine what he can do with a noodle-armed, inaccurate downfield passing quarterback or non-downfield passing quarterback. So there is some positives there. But that would have been money better spent on, I don't know, a Teddy Bridgewater. Money better spent on a Nick Foles. I would have felt better about those quarterbacks there. Tom Brady, in my opinion, would have only been good in one place. New England. Anybody else that spent money on Tom Brady was wasting their money. You might as well flush it down, use it as toilet paper because we're running out anyway. That's what they should have done with that money. This is what they might as well have done. And everybody's high on Tampa because they got Tom Brady. And I'm like, really? The same Tom Brady that was willed to victory in a Super Bowl because of bad officiating and just crappy in film. The same Tom Brady last year that couldn't complete a ball 20 yards downfield to save his friggin' life. I don't see it. Maybe I'm blind with my hatred towards Brady. I'll be willing to concede that as a possibility. But am I crazy, E, or are you seeing what I'm seeing?
Well, listen, he finally has weapons on offense that he never really had in New England outside of having Randy Moss. Okay? And Randy Moss is the best wide receiver he's ever played with, and he's about to play with 2 1,000-yard receivers from Jameis Winston last year, who threw 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. I think the offense is going to be better. Yes, I do. Who do I think takes the biggest hit? Well, it's a passing league. So Ronald Jones. Unless the Buccaneers go out and sign a Devontae Freeman, okay? Or they go out and trade for Le'Veon Bell, and they include Ronald Jones in that deal to the Jets. I still think Bell has a chance to be in Tampa. I've been beating that drum since early last year. I really have been. But I will say that they're going to tailor the offense to say, okay, Godwin and Evans, you don't have to go deep. We'll throw it deep like 3 or 4 times a game to lighten up the offense. I see a better offense. They're going to tailor it to Brady's strengths for a 42-year-old, going to be 43-year-old quarterback. Do I think they win the division? Do I think that they go to the Super Bowl? Do I think that Tampa Bay is the first home team to host the Super Bowl too because the Super Bowl is in Tampa? No. I wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta was better than Atlanta was better than Tampa. Tampa finished third. Okay. I wouldn't be surprised. I still think the Saints are the team to beat in the NFC South. Tampa is going to be dangerous offensively, yes. Okay. But again, you also have to factor in too the weather in the Northeast compared to weather in the Southeast, and he also gets to play in a couple of domes. One extra time in a dome with the Saints. So, twice with the Falcons too. So when it comes to that, yes, it was probably a more perfect place. I thought if he ended up anywhere outside of New England, it was going to be Tennessee. Well, Tennessee likes Ryan Tannehill. What he did for us, we're gonna reward him and give him the money. Blah blah blah. I want to franchise Derrick Henry, and that was a smart move on Tennessee's part. So that left really one option. That left one option for Brady to leave New England, and now was Tampa.
You want to know why I know I'm right?
He worked with Roethlisberger. He worked with Peyton Manning. Now he's going to work with Brady. So I think it's a good situation for him.
Yeah. Well, you want to know why I'm right?
Lead him to the promised land? No.
You want to know why I know I'm right? You can do this while I'm talking about my third team. Go ahead, Eric, and look up Tom Brady's record in Florida as a starting quarterback. All those years against Miami, the few times he played Tampa Bay and Jacksonville. You go ahead and look up his Florida record and what that weather and how he looks in that weather now. While you're doing that, let me get to my final one. The other team that I am greatly disappointed in or I think has really messed up this offseason free agency, rather. Not necessarily disappointed. I'm actually very happy for him. In fact, I've applauded every one of these moves. I think they're doing everything they need to do to make me very happy. And I'm very glad that this team has done what they've done so far this offseason. But if you are a fan of the team, forever, you're going to be very disappointed. The San Francisco 49ers. Letting go of Buckner and Sanders after going to the Super Bowl last year, I don't know what's going on in San Francisco, but it ain't winning formula. It is not a winning formula. And I don't know what it is with West teams that lose a Super Bowl and then the next year decide to take a dump in a toilet bowl with a mediocre to 9-7 record. The Cardinals did it in 2009. The Rams did it last year. The Seahawks, after losing the Super Bowl to the Patriots the next year, did not have a strong season. And we're seeing it again now. And I don't know why, and I don't know what it is, but what I do know is I'm happy that it is happening. The 49ers right now have 3 glaring holes on their football team. Defensive line, and yes, I know they got that kid, Bosa, but you lose Buckner, that's a big, big hole. Linebacker wasn't impressive last year in the Super Bowl, wasn't really impressive against quality opponents last year, and didn't get better or hasn't gotten better. That was already a weakness going into the season, and now wide receiver. You lose Emmanuel Sanders, you got a great run-blocking wide receiver, but therein lies the problem. Run-blocking wide receiver. I'd much rather have a very good wide receiver who can also run block. So, I don't know what's going on in San Francisco, but I don't think these have been good moves for them. E, go ahead.
As far as San Francisco goes, there's not a lot of. Are you talking San Fran or the Chargers?
San Francisco.
Okay, so you said Joey Bosa. He's on the Chargers.
No, I meant the other Bosa. Sorry.
Yeah. Outside of the rumor of them going after Brady and trying to shatter Garoppolo's confidence, the 49ers aren't far from where they need to be. And getting back into the first round and trading Buckner and possibly even getting a stud in the top half of the draft, in a deep draft, especially offensively, San Francisco hasn't done enough to warrant them losing the top spot in the division. I know Seattle has made some additions. But I also don't think that they have done enough to where, they're going to be the team to beat in the NFC either. They're stuck in a holding pattern, and that's because they got a lot of key guys already, under rookie contracts, are already locked up. Now, they did lose Emmanuel Sanders, and he signed a 2-year deal with the Saints. I thought he added a different element to that offense, especially with Deebo Samuel, who's now the number 1 wide receiver, but probably the second option in that offense behind Kittle. So,
Yep.
Unless they're looking at drafting a wide receiver, their offense is going to take a little bit of a hit. So, I think they're going to be okay. They're not going to have as great as a year as next year. But hey, Nick Bosa's a year older, so he knows a little bit more. And I expect him to make a step up and get a couple extra sacks. So when it comes to that, it's like, does San Francisco really need to do much, or do they just need to sit back and wait?
Well,
for the ball in their lap? I think that's just where they're going.
You're acting like the 49ers were so much better than everybody else in the National Football League last year, and you're just not right. They weren't that much appreciably better than everybody else. The Rams had a share of injury problems and a slew of issues. Seattle was dealing with an aging issue. They're still dealing with an aging issue, but they had dismantled their defense so much, they literally provided no opportunity for their offense to produce. But even going outside, the Saints have gotten better. A lot better. The Buccaneers, I don't think they've gotten better, maybe. I don't know. I don't think so. But Atlanta's gotten better. Philadelphia's gotten better. Detroit's gotten better. Chicago's gotten better. And the Niners haven't. And that's a recipe for disaster. And I didn't think that the 49ers were particularly a scary team last year. So I don't know that a holding pattern was a good idea, is all I'm saying. And that's why they're a disappointment.
Well, we'll find out. I mean, yeah, but are those teams that you mentioned have gotten better? Have they gotten better to stay equal with the 49ers? Have they passed the 49ers? We don't know yet.
Well, maybe. But I don't know, man. It's interesting. We'll have to wait and see. Who are your 3 disappointing teams?
One of them, Dallas. You are in, you're going to be really up against the cap quite a bit. And maybe not this year, probably next year. Your exclusive franchise tag is costing $35 million with Dak Prescott. Your 4-year, $100 million deal with Amari Cooper. You're going to be letting a lot of talent walk out that door and starting it after the 2020 season. You lost Witten, which I don't think is a big loss for them. I know it was that security blanket, but you should find somebody else, like Blake Jarwin. You're going to see a lot of defensive talent leave. The next guy that they're going to try to probably franchise or sign to a long-term deal, that would be in a couple of years, is going to be Leighton Vander Esch. And I know you're not a big Vander Esch fan, but maybe they take the other road and say, you know what, we're going to go with Jalen Smith instead. We just don't know yet. Still $2 million in their deals, but Prescott is okay. So he's got the franchise tag. I don't expect them a long-term deal, and I won't be surprised. I don't think they're going to take the Washington Redskins approach with him next year and franchise tag him again for probably what would be over $40 million.
Yeah.
But you might be seeing a new quarterback in 2021 or 2022 at the earliest in Dallas. And I'm not sure if Mike McCarthy even wants Dak Prescott as his quarterback. But Dallas hasn't done anything. They're trying to throw all this money at Prescott and Cooper. They've already signed Zeke. So man, when you got a ton of money wrapped up in 3 guys, guess what? Your talent level is going to go down. So
Eric?
You'll be passed by Philadelphia. You'll be passed by Washington. You know what? You might even get passed by the Giants too.
You know what's really ironic here is my brother's a Cowboy fan. My buddy Joe had a bet with Doug that the Rams would have a better record than the Cowboys last year, and of course they did, but that's another story. But the whole season it was Rams 3-game winning streak, Dallas 3-game winning streak. Rams lose 3 in a row, Dallas lose 3 in a row. Rams win, Dallas win. Rams lose, Dallas lose. This back and forth was going on until the last 4 weeks of the season when the Rams really got good and Dallas fell apart. It's just funny to me how these two organizations have mirrored each other. And whether you look at their division record, or not division record, but their playoff record against one another, which the Rams are barely winning, or you're looking at the head-to-head matchup, the Rams are up 5-4 in the playoffs, Dallas is up 17-16 overall. These two teams are so unilaterally aligned with one another, it blows my mind. And now you're mentioning their salary cap situation. Circa Los Angeles 2019 and 2020. It is amazing to me how Dallas is doing literally the exact same things as the Rams. I don't know what's going on between these two organizations, but everything you just said about Dallas, the Rams had money locked up in Brandon Cooks, a wide receiver. They had their money locked up. Well, let's go further. Aaron Donald, a defensive lineman. They had their money locked up in a quarterback and their money locked up in a running back, and then put them in salary cap hell. What does Dallas have? Money locked up in a quarterback, money locked up in a running back, and I believe a wide receiver in their case with Amari Cooper. So I don't know what to tell you, man. They're two peas in a pod at this point.
Yep.
So who's your number 2?
My number 2. Oh boy. My number 2. That's tough. I'm going to go with, and they lost a lot of talent, and they only signed one big guy, but they lost people on the offensive line. Actually, they lost one. They lost one of their big cogs on the offensive line, and I'm going with the Packers.
Interesting.
They didn't re-sign Bulaga, and I know Bulaga's been up and down for a couple of years, but when he's on, he's one of Rodgers' most trusted offensive linemen. And when you don't re-sign one of your offensive linemen who throws everything he has into blocking your franchise quarterback, that takes a hit. So you lose also Blake Martinez to the Giants. You lose, he's a linebacker for those that might not know the name, but you lose another outside linebacker, Kyler Fackrell, to the Giants. The Giants are, quietly stocking up talent. Bulaga signed with the Chargers, which is, I think, big for that offensive line, depending on no matter who they're blocking for. We don't know who the Chargers starting quarterback is going to be, but right now it's Tyrod Taylor. But the only big name that you signed outside of your own in Mercedes Lewis and Will Redmond is Christian Kirksey. You signed Rick Wagner, but it's just a name. But Kirksey is a linebacker from Cleveland. And I'm sorry, but the Packers need a wide receiver. You can't just keep throwing to Devontae Adams. I mean, you can. Everybody throws to Michael Thomas all the time. They've always got Sanders. You need somebody else on the outside to take coverage away from Adams. Now, unless they draft one, and I mean a really good one in the draft, not some guy who, just only had a good college career and he played with a mediocre quarterback, but somebody who can actually go up and get the ball. Geronimo Allen said he's gone, so it's not going to be him. You don't trust Marcus Valdes-Scantling. There was another guy who came on late in the year. What's his name? Not Kumaro. There was somebody else, I think. I don't know. They used like 10,000 different wide receivers last year, but I'm sorry, the Packers haven't had a great. They haven't had a great free agency offseason. They killed it last year with Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith, and with those two signings. But their offense, they're paying a 36-year-old quarterback. They're going to be paying Aaron Jones very soon. They're banking on Jake Sternberger to be their go-to tight end, along with Mercedes Lewis. But the Packers haven't had the greatest offseason. That's fine by me. I know they ain't going to be 13-3 next year. So they're number 2 for me.
Okay, who's your number 3?
Number 3, straight to it, huh?
I guess the reason I'm saying that is because, Green Bay to me is usually, I'm waiting for me to basically call them a tremendous disappointment until Rodgers leaves and they don't have a backup plan.
They're another team.
Yeah.
I will tell you that my number 3 team, this team hasn't done anything really, and they have a chance to really a name for themselves in this year in the division, but the New York Jets haven't done anything. They re-signed one of their offensive linemen, Alex Lewis, and they released Tremaine Johnson. Other than that, they've been quiet. They're losing Robbie Anderson in free agency, most likely, unless they re-sign him, but he's still out there. They need offensive playmakers for Darnold. They could trade Le'Veon Bell if they really want, but again, the Jets are doing nothing. And in a division where the Patriots got worse and the Bills got better with one trade and a couple of signings, and the Dolphins are still in rebuild mode. I mean, hello, Jets, are you there?
Yeah.
Or are you stuck in quarantine somewhere?
Yeah, that's a great point. I agree with you. That, to me, you can be on a list of disappointing teams by not doing anything. If you're staying pat and you're good like the 49ers, it's less concerning, as you've proven, right? You've proven it. And they've actually lost guys, but have relatively stayed pat. Like you said, they trade to get back into the first round, so I mean, I guess there is that. But when you're a mediocre team like the Jets and you're staying pat and you've got assets to give and get, and you're in a division where the team that's won your division 171 years in a row is finally not going to win it, and one team's making a push that's your in-state rival, and the other team is stuck in hell until they can rebuild. Yeah, it's like, hello, McFly, are you there? Wake up. It's crazy. So, Listen, I want to wrap this up because we've gone well over an hour. You weren't kidding when we said we could do 2 hours on this show. I know we said we were going to talk about one other thing. Do you remember what that was, E? Because I don't even remember.
No.
Yeah, see, brain shot. It's coronavirus. We're all sick. Anyway, sick in the head. Yeah. Next show that we're going to do is going to be on tight end versus running back. Which one's overvalued? Is one undervalued? We'll talk about that because I think that's going to be a pretty important conversation moving forward as we hit into the draft and wrap up free agency. Hope you guys like the show. I'm Anthony.
I'm Eric.
Horns up.
Bear down.
And go Rams.
And Blue Rams.
Yeah, and go who?
Go Bears.
Nick Foles. Going to win you a title. Good job.